I'm going to build the ideal family here with my new wife and this child, so we're getting a divorce. You and our son need to leave this house right now," my husband said, raising his voice while breathing heavily. When I was pregnant, he became independent and started a company making children's clothes. Initially, he worked diligently, but now he spends each day playing, and the management of the company is barely surviving. Amid the sadness of hearing about my parents' deaths, he suddenly came to my place with his mistress and their child. Confused, my son and I thought it would be improper to argue in front of the house, so I let the three of them in. Then suddenly he told me and my son to leave the house. It was outrageous for him to say such a thing, given how difficult of a situation I was in due to my parents' passing, and it made me furious. I was stunned and could not reply. However, my son snorted. "Hey, what's with that cheeky attitude?" "Dad, it's impossible to divorce Mom." "What are you talking about? A divorce is just a matter of filing the papers. Don't you even know that, being a high school student?" But as my son began to explain his reasons, my husband's face turned pale. "My name is Megan Baker, a 47-year-old part-time working housewife. I help with the family business part-time. I have one child, my son Ryan, who is a 16-year-old high school student. I have been married to Patrick for 17 years. Patrick is the president of an apparel company. Patrick spends his days playing, but he really shouldn't have the luxury to do so. The company's profits are almost non-existent, and its financial state is very precarious. Patrick's income is unreliable, and most of his salary goes to his hobbies, so our household relies on my part-time income. Ryan is very kind and always helps with the household chores. However, he's cold towards Patrick, and they do not speak to each other. Initially, I thought it was just a rebellious phase, but since he's kind to me, I believe he dislikes Patrick. Soon after starting high school, Ryan began working part-time. Patrick and I met at work. I was working as an editor for a fashion magazine, and Patrick was a designer at an apparel company. Our first meeting was during a meeting to discuss featuring his company's products. At that time, we were discussing a feature on date outfits. The key to this outfit is matching the color of the shoes and the skirt to make the legs look slimmer. The color is white, which I think adds a sense of purity. That sounds great. The focus is clear, and it seems like we can make an easy-to-understand feature. Thank you. It's been a while since we had such a meeting, so I've prepared various things. Patrick was very serious, and he made many suggestions during the meeting. Seeing him like that, I imagined that building a family with him would lead to a fun future. One day, there was a dinner between my company and Patrick's company, and after getting a bit drunk, Patrick became jovial and shared something with me. "I want to dress my children in the clothes I design, so I hope to marry a wonderful wife and have cute children someday." "Patrick, have you ever designed children's clothes?" "Yes, I was in charge of designing children's clothes when I first joined the company." "That's a wonderful dream. I would like to help make that dream come true." "Megan, you also have a wonderful dream." After that, Patrick asked for my contact information. We got along well from there, and eventually Patrick confessed, and we started dating. We were both approaching our 30s and got married less than a year after we started dating. I got pregnant soon after we got married. During the early stages of my pregnancy, I temporarily quit my part-time job and suffered from morning sickness. Patrick, what brought you home this morning? I decided to quit my job and go independent. I think now is the time to make my dreams come true. Go independent? At a time when we're about to have a baby? I was taken aback. It's okay. One of my clients told me they have work they want me to do, so there will be work. I see, but setting up an apparel company requires a lot of preparation, right? Like, you need to build an office and buy equipment. True, but I don't have much money for preparations. I was a bit disappointed by Patrick's lack of planning, but I desperately researched where we could borrow money from. However, we were turned down by all the banks. Resigned to being rejected, I consulted my parents. Then they agreed to help Patrick establish his company. I'm really grateful for my parents' kindness, probably because they were also excited about the arrival of their grandchild. Patrick worked hard every day for the child that was about to be born. Sometimes he came home late from work, but he never complained, even when morning sickness prevented me from preparing meals. On weekends, he actively did the laundry and cleaning. However, his attitude changed dramatically one day. It was the day I gave birth to our child. That night, when my water broke, Patrick immediately took me to the hospital. Patrick, is it really okay with your work? It's fine. There are no negotiations or urgent jobs, so I'll stay with you. Also, don't worry about me. Worry about yourself now, Patrick said kindly, holding my hand tightly as I struggled through labor. A few hours later, the delivery was successful. Congratulations, it's a healthy boy. A boy? Yes, a healthy boy. Is there a problem? The nurse tilted her head, but Patrick's solemn expression did not change. In fact, Patrick had been hoping for a girl ever since I became pregnant. He often handled girls' clothing projects at work, and since becoming independent, he had been working as a designer specializing in girls' and children's wear. Throughout the pregnancy, all the children's clothes designs were for girls, and Patrick had convinced himself that a girl would be born. We moved to the hospital room, but Patrick's disappointed expression did not change. Patrick, it turned out to be a boy. I'm sorry. Why isn't it a girl? There's nothing we can do about it. The gynecologist said there was a high chance it would be a boy, and we can't control the gender of the child. Then put that child in a baby hatch until a girl is born. What? I would never do such a terrible thing. Whether it's a boy or a girl, this child is my irreplaceable child. Patrick gradually began distancing himself from me, and I ended up raising our child alone. Thinking Patrick's depression was temporary, I continued to work hard on household chores and childcare, supported by my parents. I also returned to my part-time job and worked hard every day. My workplace was supportive of my childcare efforts, and when Ryan was young, I could even bring him to work. However, even as Ryan grew older, Patrick paid no attention to the family. Eventually, Patrick began to spend more nights away from home, and the number of mornings he returned home decreased. Dad, I won a gold medal in the summer vacation art contest. Huh? So what? What do you want to say? What do I want to say? Oh, I see. Are you bragging that you have more artistic talent than me? No, that's not what I meant. Patrick, don't trouble Ryan. Why don't you praise him a little? Enough already. Yes, it's a nice drawing. Patrick sat grumpily and slammed the door. His attitude towards Ryan was terrible, and he never participated in any of Ryan's school events. Entrance ceremony, parent-teacher day, music recital, graduation. There was no sign of his father at any of these events, which Ryan found unsettling. Ryan began to sense that his father disliked him, and gradually he started to despise his father as well. Then a major turning point arrived one Sunday while I was preparing dinner. "Hello, sister?" "Megan, Mom and Dad have passed away." "Passed away?" The sudden news left me in shock. They had been helping us out ever since Ryan was born. I hadn't even been able to show them gratitude, and now they were gone. I was at a loss for words. Why? They were fine when we saw them at Christmas. It seems they were hit by a car that ran a red light. Can you come to the hospital right away? Patrick and Ryan haven't come home yet, so I'll head there as soon as they're back. I hung up the phone with trembling hands. When will Patrick return? He hasn't told me when he'll be back, so I don't know when I can go to the hospital. I tried calling Patrick, but I couldn't reach him. He doesn't even read my messages. In such a difficult time. While I was irritated, I was also sinking into sadness. Mom, what's wrong? Sorry, don't worry about it. What was that call about earlier? Actually, your grandparents have passed away, so we'll go to the hospital where they are once your dad gets back. Okay. Ryan sat down on the sofa with a sad face. Then I heard a car stop. Looking out the window at our driveway, I saw Patrick's car. Good, Patrick is back. Wait, what? Next to Patrick was a woman dressed in high-end brand clothes and flashy nails. Clearly a woman who liked to show off. There was a child wearing pink clothes next to the woman. Could she be an acquaintance of Patrick? Is the child hers? But Patrick was holding hands with the woman. Who is this woman? My mind was in turmoil and I started to panic. Hey, Megan, it's me, open up. Without ringing the doorbell, Patrick was rattling the front door. To avoid any further commotion, I hurriedly opened the door. Patrick, welcome back. It's a tough time right now, but who is this? I stared at the woman next to Patrick. She looked confident, as if she had been meeting and tightly gripped Patrick's arm. Nice to meet you. I am Ashley, Patrick's wife. Hey, Ashley. Wife is a bit too soon, don't you think? Patrick and Ashley began to flirt in a cloying tone. And it was a child next to Ashley. Sarah, say hello. Nice to meet you. I'm Sarah. Sarah is the child Ashley and I had together. Unlike you, Ashley actually gave me a daughter. A child? My body stiffened. Had Patrick really fathered a child with his mistress while he was away from home? Hey, Megan, I need to talk, so let us in. All right. Since we couldn't keep talking in front of the house, I followed Patrick's instructions and let him and his mistress into the house. Huh? A guest? Yes, it seems like your father brought his mistress. Mistress? That's being cheating? Seems so. We're about to have a detailed discussion now. Can I sit in on this? If you want to be there, Ryan, that's fine. I hesitated to let Ryan be part of what might turn into a very tense situation, but seeing his serious expression and realizing he was old enough to understand, I decided to let him sit beside me. We moved Sarah to another room and sat down. Ashley opposite me, Patrick opposite Ryan. Patrick seemed displeased that Ryan was there, but I decided to proceed with the discussion anyway. I'm going to build the ideal family here with Ashley and Sarah, so Megan, I'm divorcing you. You and Ryan need to leave this house right now. Patrick, you're so cool. Patrick was raising his voice while breathing heavily. Ashley looked at him with sparkling eyes. Clearly smitten. I was completely fed up with their foolish behavior and couldn't stop feeling nauseous. Despite the grave situation of my parents' deaths, such outrageous statements from my husband infuriated me. I was too stunned to respond. However, Ryan snorted. "Hey, Ryan, what's with that insolent attitude?" "Dad, it's impossible to divorce Mom." "What are you talking about? A divorce is just a matter of filing out a form. Don't you know that, even as a high school student?" "Dad, you still haven't repaid the money Grandpa lent for your business, have you?" Patrick's face turned pale immediately. Ashley looked bewildered. I almost burst out laughing at the temperature difference between their expressions. Actually, the funds my parents had lent were supposed to be repaid gradually as the company stabilized. A promise Patrick made when borrowing the money from them. But Patrick had been making excuses to delay repayment. "Dad, were you trying to escape repayment by getting a divorce? But that's not going to work. Grandpa told me to make sure you pay it back." "When did we make that agreement? Were you with my father-in-law when I wasn't around?" "I've been meeting Grandpa and Grandma quite often." "Where did you meet them?" "At my part-time job, Grandpa's company." "That's a lie. I never knew that." Indeed, Ryan had been working part-time at his grandparents' company. Seeing me support the family, Ryan had wanted to help me someday. When he entered high school and expressed a desire to work part-time, I suggested he work at my parents' company. They were delighted to have him, as it would also serve as training to take over the business. At first, Ryan was given simple office tasks, but he also handled advice on new products, a task suitable for a young person, and he enjoyed his work. Since starting his part-time job, Ryan had looked more dependable. His statements were more assertive than anyone else's, and I felt tears welling up with pride at how well I had raised him. "So, Patrick, please make sure to repay the $100,000 you borrowed from my parents, okay?" Encouraged by Ryan's words, I delivered the final blow to Patrick. "Patrick, what do you mean? You told me you were a director at a major apparel company earning $100,000 a year. Is it true you have $100,000 debt?" "Ashley, it's not like that. What she's saying is nonsense." "Should I bring out the evidence? I have the repayment pledge for the funds here in the house." "Stop it, Megan." Ignoring Patrick's words, I showed the repayment pledge we had signed when we received the financial support from the drawer. Patrick collapsed to his knees. "There's no way I can pay such a huge amount. It's obviously impossible." "Patrick, this is true then." "Dad, as I said earlier, you can't get a divorce until you pay back the money." "Shut up, Ashley. Could you take on my debt? I'll pay it back quickly for Sarah's sake." "Ashley, how about that? Then we can get married right away, right?" Ashley's face gradually turned red. "Patrick, you liar. I didn't know about this. First of all, I didn't make this debt." Patrick and Ashley suddenly started arguing. Ryan looked on with a disgusted expression, as if looking down on both Patrick and Ashley. "For Ryan's sake, please don't show such an ugly sight anymore." I carried Sarah from another room and kicked Patrick, Ashley, and Sarah out of the house. "Mom, we should hire a detective to claim compensation from Dad." "Yes, I'll think about it." I felt proud of my son's dependable appearance. Then I made a phone call. "Hello, it's me. Could I ask you for a little favor?" After I explained the situation to the person on the phone, they said, "Understood. I'll start moving on it tomorrow," in a kind voice. Since then, I spent several busy weeks. There were mountains of things to do, including my parents' funeral and taking over the company. I went to bed late and woke up early, continuing to suffer from lack of sleep. I came down with a cold and couldn't go to work for a while. Ryan took care of me after school, doing household chores. As I ate the rice porridge Ryan made, the doorbell rang. Megan, open up quickly. I staggered to the door, despite feeling unsteady. I slowly opened the front door. What's the matter, Patrick? Why have you come so suddenly? What do you mean my company has been razed to the ground? Where did my company go? Company? What are you talking about? You don't have a company. Did you do something? Don't just get rid of the company I started for my dream. Despite being sick, Patrick grabbed my collar. As I coughed, something seemed to dawn on him, and suddenly he pushed me away. I stumbled and fell to the floor. What? You have a cold? Don't pass your filthy germs to me. It's disgusting. Isn't that a terrible way to treat Megan? It's rude no matter what. Christina, what are you doing here? Emerging from the back of the room was my sister, Christina. She has always been strong in her sense of justice and is very strict with people who do not keep promises or follow rules. Since Ryan was born, the increasingly negligent Patrick had been quite afraid of her. Why are you in the house? Could you stop rampaging at the door and come inside to talk? Overwhelmed by my sister's pressure, Patrick shrank and entered the house. His expression was like that of a small animal terrified of its natural predator as he trembled and looked at Christina. Christina, why are you here in the house now? I needed to discuss the company handover with Megan. Company takeover? What do you mean? Yes, actually, I have merged and absorbed your company. Merged and absorbed? I haven't heard anything about that. Patrick's shoulders shook uncontrollably. I almost wanted to laugh out loud because it was so satisfying, but I restrained myself to avoid getting scolded by my sister in front of him. In fact, Christina had been managing Patrick's company for quite some time. Because of his affair, Patrick had neglected the company's management, leading it to almost constant deficits. I, who had been diligently working part-time, hadn't noticed. But when Christina investigated Patrick's company, she found it was drowning in deficits. Knowing a lot about business management, Christina thought she could turn around Patrick's company. Patrick's management was terrible, but the quality of the products he made is quite good. So I thought it might be good to try and rebuild it under my company. But absorbing it like that without permission is illegal. I'll sue. Well, why don't you check the repayment pledge agreement first? Megan, give me the repayment pledge agreement. I pulled out the repayment pledge document from the drawer as Patrick asked. When Patrick saw the pledge, he widened his eyes as if he had seen something he shouldn't have. What is this? The pledge stated that the company was in my parents' names. Yes, Patrick's company had been established under my parents' names. Actually, all the procedures and necessary administrative tasks for setting up the company had been done by my parents and sister. Thus, they were able to change the company's registration to our parents without Patrick knowing. After our parents passed away, Christina inherited half of their estate, including Patrick's company. At first, Christina was hesitant about merging and absorbing the company, but I told her about Patrick and consulted her about wanting to get rid of his company on my own. That's when she told me about the inheritance. So my company has become Christina's property? Yes, and Patrick, you will need to leave the company. Christina, could you at least hire me as a designer? Patrick suddenly became humble. However, his intentions were clear. Christina glared at him. Obviously not. This is all part of the strategy to oust you, so there's no way we can hire you, Patrick, so I'll become unemployed? Yes, well, good luck. Patrick looked utterly desolate. By the way, Patrick, there's something I want to show you. I pulled out several photos from an envelope. The photos showed Ashley with a man who was not Patrick walking into a hotel and enjoying shopping. Moreover, the partner was different in each photo. Men older than Patrick, men younger. It was clear that she had relations with many people. When I first saw these photos, I was fed up with Ashley's irresponsibility. Patrick looked at the photos in astonishment. She was walking with a man who isn't me. This isn't some kind of montage, right? Actually, I hired a detective agency to gather evidence of your affair. It turns out Ashley has been involved with multiple men. She might be what you'd call a sugar baby. So Sarah's father might not be me? It seems so. The detective said it's not you. Maybe you should get a DNA test done. Patrick's face looked like he was about to cry, so I decided to deliver the final blow. Patrick, I can no longer stay married to you. I'm asking for a divorce. Additionally, I'll need compensation and child support for Ryan, along with repayment of the capital that my parents fronted. I can't possibly pay such a large sum. Megan, please give me another chance. It's impossible. I'm completely over you. As Patrick broke down crying on all fours, Christina looked on, dumbfounded. Patrick, no matter how much you struggle, it's useless. The damage you've done to Megan can't be resolved with money. So, at the very least, take proper responsibility. Patrick turned to Christina, tears streaming down his face. Then he shakily sat back down in his chair and slowly signed the divorce papers I had prepared. After that, Patrick had to take out a large loan to pay the compensation and the funds. Initially, I thought installments might be okay, but Ryan stopped me. Do you think someone as irresponsible as that can pay in installments? He'll definitely default. Realizing he was right, I demanded payment in full, as Ryan suggested. Patrick's parents cared about public perception and did not shoulder his debts. Now jobless, Patrick tried to find new work, but having been practically unemployed for over 10 years, no company would hire him. Instead, he seems to be scraping by with jobs introduced by debt collectors, apparently in a somewhat shady line of work. I also filed for damages against Ashley. Ashley, too, took out loans, working as an office worker by day and at a nightclub by night. Incidentally, the DNA test for Sarah, as the detective said, confirmed that Patrick was not her father. Now I'm in charge of my ex-husband's company, which Christina entrusted to me. Ryan is in charge of proposing new products as a part of supporting the company. Mom, I want to use softer materials for the next product. That's a good idea, let's try it. Working with Ryan is truly enjoyable and he inspires me daily. So what shall we do today? I stay motivated by the joy of working, spending each day actively.